Hey, it's a new Alien movie by a new upcoming director. Let's talk about it. Hey, everybody. It's been a minute. I know I haven't had a review up on the channel for a while, but life just gets in the way. I have seen a lot of the movies that have come out, so I kind of owe you reviews for like Scary Movie 6 and Backrooms and things like that. I might just do kind of one mega episode and have a bunch of reviews on them. We'll see. I do want to get my thoughts out on those films, but you can follow me on Letterboxd. I'm on there. I think it's Zero Cool 55 if you want to check me out on there. But more up to date on the reviews there. They're much shorter, but get them out there. But all right, let's talk about Disclosure Day from 2026, directed by Steven Spielberg, written by David Koepp. It's important that I distinguish that so we can talk about that later. But this particular film is about a guy who discovers kind of some truth about aliens and is on the march to be able to expose that to the world, which is on like a brink of World War III and things like that. And then it follows a woman who's a weather person who is endowed with some vision of what's going on and kind of her race to help disclose what's going on. So that's is the general synopsis of the movie, and then there's a evil corporation that is trying to stop them from releasing this information. So, all right, um, I have already got some flack for my thoughts on this film just based off of a Facebook post I put out of my Letterboxd review. But um, how dare you not like a movie directed by the great Steven Spielberg? I mean, he is one of the all-time greatest filmmakers of all time. How can you rate it potentially low? Spoilers, uh, because he's behind it. He's a masterclass filmmaker and things like that. Yes, he's an amazing filmmaker, and I completely respect and love a lot of his work. Jurassic Park, all-time great film. Saving Private Ryan, all-time great film. Many others. But that being said, that doesn't mean they can't not make a okay or meh movie. And I put out the writer for this film because it's very much for me a distinguishing difference between the way this movie was made along with the story that was made for the film. And for this particular movie, the story does it a disservice. The script, I should say. Um, it's not a great script. It doesn't really fully, at least for me, grip me and engage me. There are things that Spielberg does with the direction of the film that are cool and are, trademarks of his directing. But the big thing about this is it doesn't have the awe and wonder that you equate some of Spielberg's films, these kind of Spielberg's films with. And you could argue maybe that's not the case for this particular story, but then make it thrilling or exciting or things like that. The world is at brink for World War III, and like this evil corporation is out to get these particular people that are trying to disclose it to the world. And I never felt the huge sense of urgency for what's going on. Like I just didn't feel it myself, especially like with the greater picture of like the world at brink. You get little flavors and things like that, but I felt it. It was very localized for a couple of these characters, and another thing is for a large majority of the characters, I just didn't really care much about them. They are all very much one note. There isn't much depth for them, especially our villain, Colin Firth. He's a great actor, but really there is very little to that character and very little for me to really care about and like thinking how evil he is and things like that. Um, just his motivations, the way he's presented, and the action that he does within the film just doesn't get me really scared about him or really like oh no, they really need to give him his comeuppings. So I don't know, it just for my particular sensibilities or just the way I was feeling about this film. Um, the real standout of this film is Emily Blunt. I think a lot of people consensus, and I'm sharing very much consensus of a lot of people's review. They kind of shit on the story, the screenplay, but really praise Emily Blunt, and she really deserves it. She plays a multifaceted role, the only character that really has different levels to it, and plays it incredibly well. Like, to me, I very much bought into kind of what she's going through and how it's impacting her and her life, and how she is trying to just discover what the hell is going on with her. Um, I think, yes, it's probably the best role I've ever seen her in. Um, so I do kind of agree with most of the critics about that. I think she does a lot of heavy lifting to make this a very engaging and, fun and also heartfelt um, movie. And I think her character does a lot of that heavy lifting for this particular film. The unfortunate part is we spend a lot of time away from her in this movie, and the rest of the story I just didn't really fully get into. Um, there is at least one sequence involving a train that I think is pretty exciting and pretty well done. That really kind of got me to the edge of my seat. I'm like, well, this is pretty intense and pretty well done. But the rest of it, I thought it was pretty plotting, and a lot of plot conveniencies to make things happen and move forward, rather than kind of making things clever or nuanced and things like that. Like, oh, this thing can do this now, so then we can get out of this situation and things like that. Oh, this one dude is trying to take on this large amount of other people with guns and stuff like that, and he just happens to get away from them with barely a problem with that. So it's like, I know you have to suspend disbelief in a lot of what you're watching in these films, but some of it just with what is presented to you, I'm like, this dude doesn't really seem to have the capability to do that. Like, nothing about what I've been presented really makes me believe that this person can do this, but they're doing it just so the movie can move forward. And that that just didn't sit well with me, I guess. Overall, across the board, I guess the performances are well. Emily Blunt, again, the major standout. The rest of them, they're fine enough, but again, there isn't enough that much depth of character for a lot of them. There is one girlfriend character that you do kind of get a multifaceted aspect of, like, they're questioning their beliefs on religion and things like that, on top of wanting to support the boyfriend and things like that. I thought she had a little bit of depth and was interesting enough, but she doesn't have a lot of screen time for the vast majority of the film. She does have a pretty big section where she's a part of it. But on top of that, just when it comes to character and story, that's where I think this film was let down. It is a Spielberg movie. It's a big budget film. So yes, the things like the cinematography and things like that are all going to be top notch. I mean, Spielberg knows how to visually tell a story. So despite the stuff that is being presented isn't all that interesting, or at least for the vast majority of the runtime isn't that interesting, I think, from a story and script perspective, it is told with some flair. And obviously Spielberg has that flair to at least keep you somewhat engaged and into the film. But again, the story on this one just didn't, I think, give enough to really care about the stakes of both the greater world and for these particular characters. Especially, like, when you add characters like the Coleman Domingo character, who, he's a great actor, but it's like he's incredibly one note, and you don't feel any stakes with him at all with what's going on with him. It just he just keeps on popping in here and there, and they're like, oh, he's there. Like, there isn't much more to that. I don't know. I didn't feel I didn't feel that's the big problem. I just didn't feel a lot when it comes to this film. And that's probably more of a me issue, but I legitimately went into it wanting to really enjoy the ride and really enjoy, maybe we see some classic Spielberg and things like that. But for me, it just didn't land. Okay, so that's a lot. So for this particular film, I'm going to end up giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars. And as I've explained on earlier reviews, the vast majority of it for me, it's about story and script and how I feel engaged with this particular story. And for this one, it just didn't land. It just didn't land for me. And I know I'm going to have a lot of haters in the comments, potentially, or come at me other ways to say, how could you give it 2.5 out of 5 stars? It's Spielberg, for darn's sake. But again, like I said, he didn't write the script. And for this particular one, I felt like the story is what let this one down. But all right. What did you think? Did you check out this film? Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. I would really appreciate it. I'm going to try to do my best to keep up on the channel here. I'm going to try to make something particularly like a regular schedule when it comes to releasing these videos. My house has been chaos. We had some flooding in our basement right here where I'm recording. So it's like for a while there, this place was completely non-existent to being able to film. And I don't really have anyone anywhere else in my house to film. So unfortunately, I have a lot of people. My kids are off of school, so I can hear them rocking around now. So, all right. Well, please like, comment, and subscribe if you can. I'll try to get these out as much as I can. Really appreciate it. And if I don't see you again, bye forever.